hearts and minds. So take that big deep breath, put your hand over your heart. Take some deep breaths with me and say care, appreciation, gratitude, compassion. 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 So, Joni, I want to thank you for sharing that prayer, and Lonnie, I want to thank you for this beautiful. If you want to be a part of the Building Consciousness prayer team, I'd be happy to run and make you a copy after service. You can also sign up over by the bookstore to get those. They come out periodically in email. And we ask our community to join together in this. We'll talk more about the building thing in the meeting after service today. But you know, last week, it's the beginning of the year. Whoa! Last week we started the month of January. We generally do kind of the basics of New Thought, Science, Mind, Unity, teachings, all of that. And Reverend Leah spoke last week, and she talked about the beginning. In the beginning, God. And I asked her to send me like a little highlight reel that I could share to open with, and these were her main takeaways. She said, God is not some authority figure looking down at us. God is not outside of us. God is within us. It isn't a person, it is a universal presence. It is both immanent and transcendent. We start out intellectualizing God, and then we feel it within our heart. Eventually, we find our way back to the Father's house, and we unite with that divine flame. And the more we consciously connect with this presence, peace is possible, and fear and discord fall away. So I want to kind of take another step today. I'll take another step. And if we begin to connect with the truth of all of that, then what really is the power of our thought? Do you ever think about what the power of your thought is? Like, really? Yeah? Okay, good. Everybody's like, half the room's like, yeah. The other half is like, what does she mean? So let's do that. What is the power of your thought? We say that consciousness creates. We say that a lot. Consciousness creates. But what does that really mean? And as I was digging into this, or you could call it procrastinating, actually putting a word on a piece of paper, or that you could choose to view the hours and hours and hours I spent in the chair about this one in either of those ways. I kept wondering how we could bring a little bit less judgment about our thinking by bringing a lot more curiosity. And curiosity to those thought processes so that we can truly experience this idea of what mental healing really means. Because I think just maybe the whole of mental healing is wrapped in this understanding of our complete oneness and our surrender to this greater spiritual idea of our being. Now, the journal quote for this week is from the Science of Mind, and it says, the emphasis on the true mental healing is insistently on God, the one mind, the one soul, the one being ever present and ever available. And by one mind, one soul, one being, Dr. Holmes, he wasn't talking about one being out there. He was talking about one. All of us, part of the one mind, the one thought, not separable, fully present, all. Somehow individualized expressions, yet mushed together. And in all that time that I spent in the chair, I started thinking of us all as a bowl of oatmeal. Once you cook it, you can't really pull the grains back apart, right? And I think probably under a microscope you could see individualized expressions of the bowl of oatmeal. But here we are, the bowl of oatmeal. We are unseparatable from the one life. I think I made up that word, unseparatable, but you can use it. From the one life and the one mind, and yet individualized expression with these remarkably unique gifts and talents. So I know that you didn't come to church today thinking that you were going to be looked at as a bowl of oatmeal, and breakfast might never be the same, and that's okay. Because unlike oatmeal, you have consciousness and awareness. Now, and I started thinking, okay, I have to tell you, it's a hazard for you when I spend this much time going, like that about my talk. So I started looking, how do we actually define consciousness? How is it defined? And Webster says the quality or state of being aware, especially of something within oneself. I know, I didn't know Webster's was that deep. And the font of all knowledge, Wikipedia, says consciousness at its simplest is sentience or awareness of internal or external existence. Now, total sidebar, I have to tell you, some people have gone wiki crazy on consciousness, and it is an amazing page in Wikipedia that goes through the history of the definitions of consciousness, the ideas of consciousness, the spiritual ideas, the psychological ideas, the medical ideas. If you're a nerd, I highly recommend that page this week. But for today, however, if consciousness is a state of being fully aware of something within ourselves, and we identify that something as being awake and aware of our connection with Source, when we tune into that space, when we really tune into that space, we can easily understand how our thought is Spirit's thought, is my thought, is your thought, is Spirit's thought, is Spirit's thought, is my thought, is your thought. And of course, from that understanding awareness, our thought is consciously creative. Now, here's the thing. Our thought can also be unconsciously creative. The laws of the universe don't change because we are unaware of them any more than the speed limit changes just because you weren't paying attention to it. Okay, I'm sorry, officer, I didn't know the speed limit was only 75, does not in fact change the speed limit, right? So whether we're using conscious thought or unconscious thought, the law of thought, which is that thought creates, does not change. We're just creating out of our nonsense in many, many times. So your thoughts create whether you're paying attention or not. It is a lot more fun to pay attention, really, and to direct the traffic a little bit, and to direct the speed even sometimes. So there's a few ways to think about this. Now, as you likely know, the New Thought started in the 1800s as a healing practice. It was centered around the idea that by aligning with truth, and the truth of our perfection, of our connection with Spirit, we could absolutely heal our bodies, and we could support and impact the healing of others. That's where it began. Now, I have to tell you that I completely believe in this, in every fiber of my being, and I've watched it work, I've seen it work. There are those rare moments when you get to pray with other people as part of your life, where you're really in the space of knowing, and the person that you're working with is also in that space of trust and knowing, when really powerful things happen. It is pretty remarkable. But I was also reminded of something really important this week while I was trying to figure out why hard things happen. We've been having this experience as a team of prayers and holding somebody that's that's attached to someone in our community in prayer who's been ill. And I want to get into that argument with God about why does this happen and why does this happen. And then I was reminded of somebody, and I don't know who it was, and I couldn't find it, but she said, life is a mystery. And there was a period at the end of that sentence. Life is a mystery. Period. So New Thought for a while was, first it was about healing, and then it became about creating. We really got into this idea of creating, and we started to create a lot of stuff. We got really good at creating stuff, which is really great, especially if you haven't had stuff. And you have to remember that part of the renaissance of New Thought was right after the Depression, and people didn't have anything. And so creating was really important, and we kept on doing that. And if you don't, and it's actually a lot of fun to have that part of your life. I'm all for it. And we got to thinking that it is by thinking alone, and we started this sort of mythology about it, that by thinking enough and thinking hard enough, and really, you know what? The universe doesn't care how hard we think. It wants us to think clearly. And we don't have to effort. We have to get clear. And we have to make it welcome. So we got really into this idea that, what with The Secret had that part of it where if you think about an elephant, you could bring an elephant into the room. Generally, there are enough elephants in the room without thinking about them, but sidebarred by that a little bit. We got a little sidebarred. So by thinking and believing, then when we pass the offering basket around today, there's going to be an extra $10,000 in it. Because after all, we said, Jesus turned water into wine. And we can do all those things that I can do, you can do also. But we, and maybe he did that. Maybe he did. But most of us don't really have that down yet. Or we'd all be drinking a lot more wine. But most of us don't really have that down yet. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But maybe what he did was he saw that they were running low on wine and he slipped his cousin $100 to go get some quietly, right? But either way, he used his creative faculties, he used his creative mind to find a way to move forward and to create he created an energy and a space where more wine was welcome to the party. Now, if there's something in your life, if you think about your life as the party of your life, and there's something that you want to bring more of into your life, how would you make that welcome? How would you be a match for the energy of more wine, more love, more peace, more of whatever it is that you are desiring to experience? Maybe stuff, maybe not stuff. Maybe both, and. When it comes to thing and money, what we're really doing is we're using this creative power that is shared with us to move away obstacles and to create a field of energy of prosperity and a knowing that no matter what circumstances may appear to look like, we are living in the field of potential and prosperity, and to create an energy where all of that is made welcome in our experience. And we make space and we make quiet, so that our intuition will be able to be heard, so that opportunities become clear and steps towards those things that we desire are made clear to us, and we know which way to turn and which way to go when we listen. It dawned on me this morning that maybe this is the space where we move from just thinking to what I would call feeling thinking. It is where we're thinking with our heart instead of just our head, heart thought. Beyond the stuff becomes a place of knowing that our thought creates this field of energy in which we live and move and have our being, and that feeling creates the knowing that we are not alone, that we are not separatable from each other and from life and from God. Feeling thought creates the space of knowing that we are loved and we are loved. Feeling space reminds us that we are loved. That was good noise. In the Song of Solomon, it says, "I am my beloved's and the beloved is mine," which nowadays is used often in weddings. But I looked it up, and in the Hebrew tradition, it was to establish a relationship of intimacy and mutual belonging in the fulfillment of the promise of love as the way of being. How would that be? Like, do you imagine? Do you ever sit and imagine what it would be like if the world was in this way of love? That the way of love was the way of mastery, and that was what we all did together all the time, and that we answered the questions that are the problems in our world with what would love do first? What would love do? Mutual belonging in the promise and the field of love overflowing. I would call that heart thought. So this is all really beautiful and lovely, and if my thought is consistently on what is lacking in my life, or is my thought is constantly fixed on the gap between what it is that I want to be experiencing and what I feel like I am experiencing, then we never quite get there, do we? Because when we're focused on the gap, we're focused on what's missing. And when we're focused on what's missing, what do we get? More missing, right? Row, row. It's what we get. Emmett Fox said, "What you think upon grows. Whatever you allow to occupy your mind, you magnify in your life. Whatever the subject of your thought, be it good or bad, the law works and the condition grows. Any subject you keep out of your mind tends to diminish in your life, because what you do not use atrophies." There's a whole talk in that sentence. Probably not fit for Sunday morning church. What you do not use atrophies. The more you think of grievances, The more such trials you will continue to receive, the more you think of the good fortune you have had, the more good fortune will come to you. Wayne Dyer said it much more simply. He said, choose to avoid thoughts that weaken you, and you will know true wisdom. It is your choice. It is your choice. How you enter the kingdom is your choice. So it's not always that simple, though, is it? I can just go, oh yeah, change your thought, never have a negative thought. Oh, that's frustrating. But I read this suggestion this week that I thought brought this curiosity to the whole idea and to the process. You know, I've been sort of stuck on that word curious for a while now, you might have noticed. Because I'm really working at, instead of getting caught up in things and the energy of like what's happening, to step back and be curious about it. Why? What is it that we're wanting to experience and learn from these things? Sometimes it helps bring the tone down a little bit. I think it works here also. So if you've decided that negative self-talk isn't working for you anymore, because sometimes in life we just want to do negative self-talk, right? In some way, yeah? No? Come on, really? I'm the only one that sits around thinking, nobody loves me. Okay. But maybe there's a practical shift. You know, I like to do tools. I like to do practical shifts. What's the practical shift? We already know that we want to avoid saying I am about negative things, right? What I am, we own. So when we say I am alone, we're really owning alone, right? So why is it then that the master teacher said, I am the way, the truth, and the light? Because he didn't actually say in the Aramaic translations to follow me. He said, be like me. I am, you are. You are me. If I am, then you am. There's a shirt in that. But he was modeling, or a bumper sticker or something. He was modeling for everybody. So practical application, instead of I am a procrastinator, let's use that one because it's easy and not too emotional. I am a procrastinator. Then maybe curiosity, instead of saying I'm a procrastinator, might say, why do I put things off? Why do I put things off? And we travel down that road, and instead of saying I am alone and lonely, curiosity might ask, why are beautiful and loving people attracted to me? And if you're following that path, why are beautiful and loving people attracted to me? And you're like, well, because I'm out there engaged with people, but then you sit in your mind, you're like, well, I'm not really doing that. Then maybe that's the thing to follow, to begin to have the experience of not lonely and not alone. And if there's any space in those answers, as we're tracking that answer with why or what am I doing, what am I getting from this experience that I'm allowing myself to have, instead of claiming it as who I am, why am I experiencing this? What is it that I am gaining from this experience right now? Might be a better question. And then if there are answers in that track, generally there are places where there is a path that gets laid out in front of you if you choose to follow it and want to step into it into a different way. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You take requests?
Sure.
Why am I triggered by world political stuff? Change that to something I can use.
I really appreciate the way you rephrased this for this moment, I have to say, because I know what you wanted to say. Why am I triggered by the things that are going on in the world politically? You already asked the why. Why? Instead of saying I am triggered, I am mad, I am angry, I am upset, why does this impact me in this way? And what is it that I want to see change that I can impact right here and right now with what I have? Because here's the thing, Catherine, most of us can't go run for president to change things. Most of us can do what is right in front of us in our home and in our neighborhood and in our own lives. And sometimes we know what those things are and we don't make time for them, and then we find ourselves, I think, more frustrated, or we don't, find the energy, find the time, follow the path of what you love. and then become, I am a stand for peace. I'm a stand for love. I am a stand for knowing that there are plenty of resources for everyone on this planet. Did that help? Okay. Well, now back to the rest of you. Because nobody else gets triggered by politics in any way, shape, or form. Actually, it's funny. I feel like this is one of those topics that how thought creates what we do with thought that I could speak on for like 2 hours straight. But I think the real point of it is that we can use our thought to create an energy of the light for ourselves that is life-giving, life-affirming, and filled with peace and love and anything else that we want, stuff and not stuff. Stuff and not stuff. And then to spread a whole lot more of that energy out there in the world, and to surround those who are feeling outside of it in any way that you can with that power, presence, and love. Instead of judging them for being what you don't like or what you don't want, you know? Instead of judging that, be willing to surround them in a space of peace and an understanding that part of the beauty of the tapestry of life is that we all want different things. If we all wanted the same car, it'd get really boring out there, right? Surround them, because if you know that you are, then you must know that they are. We must know this for each other. So we align our hearts with these words every week: care, appreciation, gratitude, compassion. We do that every single week. And these words, they're not just for Sunday. They're really not just for Sunday. They're for every single day. Be aware and conscious of the mystery of life and let that fill you up. And like I said earlier, Ernest Holmes said, the emphasis on true mental healing is insistency on God, staying focused on the one mind, the one life, the one soul, the one being, the ever-present, ever-available source of love and energy. Yes? Are we good? Do I need to do any more? Okay. I would like to go into prayer today. But I would like to ask you to, is this okay? I would like to ask you to join me today in a little different prayer just for this little girl, Margot, Lonnie and Tom's granddaughter, who's having some stuff. I should have brought that picture over in here. She is a bright and shining, vivacious, beautiful 14-year-old with all of the power and presence and possibility that every 14-year-old encompasses. And that is what I want you to see today. So as we go into this prayer with our whole heart and our whole being, I know right here, right now, that God is absolutely everywhere present. That in this moment and in this breath there is nothing but God, and I believe in that power and presence and spirit, and I believe in nothing else. And I call you today to join me in this knowing. To join me in this knowing that there is absolutely nothing but the divine at work in our lives, in your life, in my life, in Lonnie's life, in Tom's life, and in Margot's life. I know that these words, they work for everyone, but right now, right here today, we see this little girl smiling, laughing, having her life full out. And so today I know the absolute truth of us, I know the truth of this universe is nothing but absolute wholeness and well-being. And I know that anything that appears in circumstance to look outside of that simply falls away in this time. That today, right here, right now, everything moves and lives and has its being in absolute wholeness and well-being. That love is present in every fiber of her life. That wholeness is revealed in every cell in her body. That there is nothing else but vibrant vibrant life expression. And then everything else melts away into the nothingness from which it came. What I know today is that this moment, this circumstance, this thing that she has been experiencing is a blip in time in her life. That her life is absolutely lifted up in wholeness, that she continues and is and lives and breathes as the bright and shining light that she is meant to be on this planet. I know strength and love and faith and absolute knowing for her entire family. We surround them in those arms of grace that we speak of so often, and we just hold them in love and in peace and in well-being. And I know today that all of these words from Margot, they leak out everywhere for all of us, and they are laser focused right now on that little girl. I give thanks. I give thanks for this teaching that knows. I give thanks for this opportunity to pray with you. I give thanks for the beauty of the sun and the warmth of life and the love that exists in this room. I let this prayer go, and I know that it has been already acted upon in the mind of God, and we need nothing else. And I leave room for the miraculous. I leave room for the universe to respond in ways that I cannot even yet imagine. And I know the truth of it, and I ask you to join me in a very clear and resounding and so